This is Just Common Sense, embracing common sense conservative principles with Dr. Johnny Hunter.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome everyone once again to today's program of Just Common Sense, taken from Proverbs 2:7. He grants a treasure of common sense to the honest. He is a shield to those who walk with integrity. And I want to thank you to our flagship station, WCLN Christian 105.7. And remember, if you just get part of this program, you want to hear the rest of it, it will be on the station's podcast. Also, later on, you can catch it on jcsradio.org. Now, we got a powerful guest on today, so I only have one headline I'm reading today. It's taken from Fox News to Campus Radicals. An Oklahoma student flunked by TA after touting Christian beliefs in gender essay directs others to push back. A graduate teaching assistant, Mel Kirk, failed a student on an essay advocating biblical values and traditional gender roles. And this story is quite interesting because the student had got an A on every essay except for this one. And what is interesting is the student made the comment. She said she not only made the comment that she had gotten an A on all the other ones, but she described what the assignment was. They were asked to read an article and give an opinion on the article. An article was about gender binary and mental health and gender stereotypes, especially in children, because it's the lifespan development class, she said. And so she gave her opinion. And in her opinion, she did a powerful response on talking about relations between genders, typical peer relations and mental things. And she really was critical of people who felt like they were being bullied to go for a certain thing that wasn't according to science. But what she did really use was the biblical point of view, that we're dealing with only two genders. That's what God made. And of course, in her essay, she just denounced her peers who conform to the popular discourse on gender so they do not step on people's toes. And at the same time, she stuck with her thing and said society is pushing a lie that there are multiple genders and everyone should do whatever they want. She said that's dangerous to the youth. She had a powerful piece that she wrote out, and however she got 0. And of course, now the college is saying they're dealing with the instructor, the TA that gave her that 0, but they are tolerant for everyone. And she says she hasn't seen that. So anyway, they were saying she need to stick with the science. And folks, that is why we have on who we have on today to talk about some scientific things. And that is Dr. Matthew Eppinette. Now, he has an MBA and a PhD, and he's the executive director of the Center for Bioethics and Human Dignity. And he has 2 decades of experience in the field of bioethics, including serving this center previously from 2002 to 2007, hold a PhD in theology with concentrations in Christian ethics and theology and culture from the Center for Advanced Theological Studies at Fuller Theological Seminary in Pasadena, California, where he also earned an MA in theology. He's a 2004 graduate of MA Bioethics program at Trinity International University. That's a fine university. And he has an MBA with concentrations in quantitative analysis. Now, I'm not sure if I'm quite saying it right, but he's going to get into it for us because there's some things going on with an information systems from Louisiana University. His undergraduate degree is in business management administration from Louisiana State University in Shreveport. Folks, his resume reads so long and so hard it would take up most of the program time to do it, but he's written a number of books and did a lot of lectures and everything. And he's also done one called Artificial Intelligence, More About Bite-Sized Issues. So, Dr. Eppinette, I know you trying to catch a plane flight out today and everything, and things are getting canceled, but I appreciate you for taking a moment to zip in here with us and talk to us about what's going on with artificial intelligence, bioethics, whatever God has on your heart. Let's put it that way.
Well, thank you. That's such a kind introduction, and I'm very grateful to be able to be with you today in the midst of all the fun travel experiences I'm having. But yeah, just a lot going on. That article that you just highlighted, it's very interesting. I hadn't heard of that account.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just makes me think about when we think of ethics today, how radically that has changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
For almost all of human history, when we talked about and thought about ethics and right and wrong, we thought about an external measurement to which we conformed. And now ethics has become, for many, not for everyone certainly, but for many, a way of displaying one's internal sense of self rather than conforming oneself to an external rule or an external direction. And that seems to be, I think, a lot of this friction that we see in the culture with people, finding themselves at odds with one another over things like this. Because the question really is, do I conform to a rule or to directives that come from outside of me? Or is my life really just about me expressing what's inside of me, what I think or what I feel? And those are two very, very different things. And you can see how that would lead to friction and to people rubbing up against one another in ways that cause all kinds of tensions, just like that article highlighted. And so, for that example, here's a student who's saying, this is the body that God has given me. And these are the bodies that we're each given. And we need to live in conformity with what we've been given by God as an external source of authority. And other people are saying, no, it's whatever you feel like, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to become. That's really all that it's about. And that's just such, I think it's an underappreciated change that our culture has seen over, I don't know what, the last 40, 50 years.
Wow.
That we just no longer seek, what's the right thing to do? Let me bring myself in line with what's the right thing to do. And this is the sort of fallout that we see from that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And to me, it sometimes, when I talk about wisdom and just common sense, I'm not even a mathematical genius. But even when I did computer programming, when it got down to the bytes and bits of things, it was just 0 and 1, 0. It was binary, and they made everything else look better. We can do it now and look like you're doing your computer programming using letters and words, but it's still behind the scenes is binary, 0 and 1. And so it is with male and female. Every child know the difference, but But anyway, tell me what's all going with artificial intelligence and quantitative. Anyway, we're your audience today in your class for the next 20 minutes here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on with artificial intelligence, that's for sure. One of the kind of emerging trends that we're beginning to see are, I guess, two kind of different but related things. One are these chatbots, where you can interact and have conversations with an artificial intelligence. Some of them are being given quote unquote personalities even. And in some instances, they're even being given, an avatar, a visual representation. And people are forming relationships with them in ways that, really are not healthy. And at the same time, they're neglecting relationships with real flesh and blood people, the people around them, their neighbors and even their family members. And these chatbots tend to be very agreeable. And so they just kind of run with whatever ideas you have. And they're very approving of ideas that people have. There's very little give and take, very little challenging. I mean, this is one of the things about interacting with our family or with our neighbors. They may challenge some of our ideas and help. Ultimately, that helps to strengthen our thinking, can improve our behavior and all sorts of things. And you're just not getting that with the chatbots. And then second, relatedly, are what's called grief bots. And this is where someone, passes away, and they can collect all kinds of information about them from the internet, from their social media accounts, and maybe things that they've written and other things, and design an artificial intelligence bot that in some way, mimics this person who has died.
Wow.
And, this is very concerning in that it can, I think it can keep us from fully grieving a loss and fully letting go of the person who's gone. Grief is a form of love. And if we engage with a grief bot or a chat bot of someone who has died, it's not clear to me that we're fully processing that death. And it's not that we move on with our lives. Our lives are never the same once someone that we love dies. But we do have to accommodate the change that brings into our lives, as difficult as that is. And this is where, again, we would rely on, or we should be relying on, our flesh and blood friends, neighbors, relatives, to come alongside of us and to be with us and to help us through our grief, and not turn to an artificial intelligence that really only mimics who the person was. It's not truly who the person was. And so it's a very concerning thing, both on the level of keeping us from completing the process or moving through the process of grief, and second, as it to whatever degree distracts us from or keeps us from really engaging with friends, family, and neighbors who not only we need them to be a presence to us, but we need to be a presence to them as well.
Yes, and I remember Pastor Brolin and we were in California one time, and we was coming out of this, we were near this college, and everybody was coming out, and it kind of amazed us because everybody had their cell phones and they were just looking at them, and then we went and we looked in this restaurant, and there was a bunch of them. Everybody was sitting at the table, but they were all looking at their cell phones.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, when you said, wow, those things can distract us from family and friends, I can see that. But so that really does kind of damage relations in
there's a book. It's actually been out quite a while now, and the title is Alone Together. And I think that's exactly what you're describing is what we're seeing. See a couple sitting at a table at dinner, and they're sitting there together, but they're both each on their phones, kind of lost in an aloneness. So they're alone together.
Wow. And artificial intelligence, I understand they jumped up to what is called quantum. The quantum has once again entered to the artificial intelligence thing. Understand the computer can go up very fast. Artificial intelligence is exponentially advancing. Anyway, just address it however you can.
Right.
And should pastors and churches be concerned?
Well, it just these artificial intelligence machines take a lot of energy, and the demand on them to give answers quickly is so strong that you're exactly right. They are investigating things like quantum computing, which would be exponentially faster than the computing that we have now, and would enable these artificial intelligence to do more work, to do it more quickly, to be engaged with more people, engaged on more tasks all at the same time. And one of the other areas that we're seeing the effect of this is in the amount of electricity that these things are consuming.
Wow.
And there's a huge demand for new power plants and for, I just was reading an article this morning, some of your listeners will probably remember the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant up in New York, and they're trying to restart some of that. They have a contract with Microsoft to help to power their artificial intelligence endeavors. But we see this in several places. I saw there's one in Memphis, Tennessee, and the people who live around the plant are complaining about the environmental effects of this artificial intelligence. It's a big, it's not really a factory, but a big warehouse where these computers all run, and it's using so much energy that they're concerned about the environmental effects on the folks who live right around the building where all this is going on. So it's amazing the kind of far-reaching effects that this kind of thing has, even for people who aren't necessarily engaged in making use of it directly.
Wow, I didn't even know about that. Especially in my younger days, in my almost hippie moments when I was in college, we went to 3 Mile Island.
Oh wow!
and I remember we went to it after there was some kind of little catastrophe going on there. And but while we were there, somebody pointed, this really doesn't make sense, does it? If there's a problem with a nuclear plant and we're out here getting closer to it to protest it, I'm not sure that's common sense.
It does sound like there might be a little danger there.
Yes. So we were there, but I had no idea that computers even use up a lot of energy that we're talking about. So even when people are talking about electric cars and things, there still is going to be a lot of energy burn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And gratefully, there's a lot of work going into cleaner sources of energy. I was out on the West Coast recently, and they're building more and more solar facilities out there to get energy from the sun. So there's good work being done on it. But I think there are some reports about it, but it's not clear that it's reached the sort of national consciousness, just how much electricity and power all of these things are beginning to use.
Wow. But anyway, now what else? Now let me just step out for a moment and let you just go ahead and speak what things on your heart that you think Christians need to be aware of. And anyway, so.
Yeah, there are a lot of discussions about the definition of death and organ transplantation, and so that's something that we need to be paying careful attention to. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who are working very hard to be sure that all stays very well and clearly within ethical boundaries, and at the same time tries to protect organ donation, protect those who need to receive organs, and protect those who might be in a situation to donate organs. And one of the proposals it's more than a proposal, it's something they're actually doing, mm-hmm. is that it's a relatively new technique where they can remove the organ from a person who has died and keep blood flowing through. So say a heart, keep blood flowing through the heart, so that it can be transported safely and transplanted into a patient who needs it, and with the sort of maximum amount of health, so keeping the heart as healthy as possible. So that's a very good development, and something that we like to see. On the other hand, there are people who are pushing to sort of change the quote-unquote definition of death so that they could take organs out a little bit earlier. And so you've got these two sort of competing proposals. And it's very dangerous to think about changing the definition of death. I think we need to be very, very careful there. Mm-hmm. And particularly when we look at these new technologies that can help sustain the organs and keep them healthy. I think there's absolutely no need to be revisiting things like definition of death. And again, we just want to be very, very careful around things like that.
So when you say they think about redefining death, are they trying to say they can say the person is dead before they actually died, or?
Well, that would be the tricky area, is to try and say that someone is dead who may not be entirely dead. And of course, none of this has happened yet. These are all discussions, and
right.
But this is how it starts. And so that's why there are many of us who are active in trying to push back on this.
Yes, and I noticed that you said, scientifically, there are ways to do things. And a lot of people think the Bible and science conflict a lot. But if you really read it carefully, it appears like science and the biblical things that happen are very, very much working together. They conform together. They operate together.
That's right. Yeah. The very best science is protective of and recognizes human life and human dignity, and cares very deeply for it, and works hard to care well for human beings. And so that's why, we have to be careful, and we have to do the work of advancing the science in ways that care well for people.
Yes, that is so true. Now, tell me about the because sometimes people might want to look you up sometime and tell us about the Center for Bioethics. What it is that you work with, and what you do with the Center for Bioethics and Human Dignity.
Yeah, we were launched in 1994, so we've been around a little while. And we work on the whole wide range of bioethics issues. And sometimes we'll talk about them in terms of bioethics 1.0 issues. So things that we're maybe more familiar with, like abortion and assisted suicide, euthanasia, even reproductive technology. So these are kind of life and death issues. And then what we're seeing increasingly are the bioethics 2.0 issues. And these are things like artificial intelligence and the merging of humans and machines, things like that. So the question with the bioethics 2.0 issues is, what does it mean to be human? Who counts as human? And what does true human flourishing look like in a medical technical society and world? So we work on that whole wide range of issues. We have a very robust website that has articles and other resources from the past 30 plus years at cbhd.org. And we have a podcast. We do a monthly column called Intersections that really tries to speak to the intersection of faith, our Christian life, and these bioethics, medical, scientific questions that arise. We have a peer-reviewed publication called Dignitas that's on our website, freely available. That has one of the articles we just published there is on sleep and the need that we as humans have for sleep, but trying to balance where we don't make sleep everything.
Right.
Sleep has its place, but it's not our whole world. So how do we think about sleep in terms of our health, in terms of human flourishing, in terms of serving one another well, loving one another well? How does that fit into an overall balanced life? Things like that.
Wow, that's great. Now, the 1.0 stuff I can really relate with, especially from the abortion side of things.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. Do you see that the people? I don't know. I think after all these years, I still hear some of the same old arguments from years ago, even though it's been said otherwise. First, they said, "Oh, it's just a glob. Oh, it's not really human life. It's not really." And the whole thing of it is that child a human life or not? And to me, it looked like the answer would be easy. What have you been? How do you address that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of the other things that I wanted to mention today is there are a couple of new companies that are offering some reproductive technologies that they're calling IVF plus, so in vitro fertilization plus. And and the way this works is they take an embryo. So you have IVF, and they make the embryos in the lab, and they take a few cells out of that embryo, very early on, and they sequence the genomes. They run all those kinds of tests to know what all is in the genome. And it's really interesting to look at online. They give you this picture or this chart that has all of these traits, all of these attributes that they can know about the embryo from just those few cells. And I mean, we're talking, just a very few days after fertilization. And they can tell you the eye color. They can give you an estimate of the height. Of course, they know whether it's a boy or a girl. It's amazing. And to me, that just even further highlights the humanity of that very early embryo. Because we know all of this about the person that embryo is, even at this very early, we're talking 3 to 5 days after fertilization. And we can know all of these facts about this embryo, this human person. And to me, it's just another way of emphasizing that these early embryos, from the very moment of conception, from the moment of fertilization, they are full human beings, just like you and I are. They have an eye color. The eyes haven't developed yet, but we know what the eye color is going to be. The hair hasn't grown yet, but we know what color the hair is going to be. We know for certain whether it's a boy or a girl. These kinds of things. It's really, on the one hand, it's amazing that we have all this knowledge, but on the other hand, it's very frightening what people then do with that knowledge, because people then choose whether or not they're going to move forward with this embryo or that one based on, whatever it is that's important to them. Whether, they want a boy or a girl, or whether they want a tall child or a short child. So, it's a real two-edged sword there.
Yes, I remember many years ago, I attended one of the bioethics conference, and they said, watch the movie Gattaca.
Yes.
And now we look like we're living in a time where this is becoming a very reality. So I can understand a lot of, I just want to say to my listeners, as you listen to Dr. Eppinette, let me be honest with you. People of his caliber, especially his Christianity and his expertise in bioethics, also in science and other things, he's kind of ahead. When you watch some of the science fiction things that are happening, they're almost already there. If you listen to him very closely, what he's saying, when you start talking about the merging of, you said the mergence of people, humans and machines.
Mm-hmm.
That's whoa. And is that beginning to happen already, or what's going on?
Yeah. So if you've heard of Neuralink, which is one of the companies that Elon Musk owns, they're doing brain-computer interfaces. And he was just recently quoted. Now, what they're starting with, and this is a good thing, is people who have paralysis or other physical limitations. This gives them access to be able to do things that they could otherwise not do because of their physical limitations. And that's where they're starting. But he just recently gave an interview, and he talked about, well, this is just the beginning. What we want long-term is to be able to connect people's minds and computers, so that there's no typing, no speaking to Siri, that kind of thing. You just think it, and it goes right into the computer and comes right back to you. That's the trajectory that they're on, the path that they're barreling down.
Wow, is that scripture rings the bell, rings in my head, just go bing. He placed before us blessings and a cursing. Choose life that you and your descendants may live. That's taken out of Deuteronomy. But even listen to you can hear the things that are blessings and the things that could be curses. When we talk about in 3 to 5 days, they can actually tell what the child's hair is going to look like, their eye color, how high is it. But it also means they can tell whether this kid's going to have some heart problems later on.
That's exactly right.
Whether they're going to be.
And,
Yeah. So do you really want the insurance company to know what's going on?
So
I can see.
What ends up happening, though, is those embryos that, for whatever reason, people say, well, that's just not as healthy as I want. Then those embryos never get a chance to go into the womb and to be born.
Wow.
That just tragedy upon tragedy there.
So the bioethics of it all is dynamic. It's we have to redo some real thinking here to address the situations that's coming forward. So anyway, and I had no idea that Elon Musk was really even behind some of the new developments that's coming up there.
Yeah. He's got a lot of money and he gets stuff done. So he's definitely worth watching, what he's doing.
And I remember one of the scientists from the Genome Project, when they were trying to look at the DNA and all the things to represent, I remember him making a statement. He said one thing about his team afterwards, that everybody realized there was a creator, there was a designer.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's just too complex. It's just way too complex. I mean, we only barely understand it. And it's been one of the interesting things. Another company that Elon Musk is involved in is trying to build robots, and trying to get a robot hand to have anything even remotely like the kind of dexterity that a human hand has, or our skin, the flexibility. Think about the flexibility of our skin as we move around. Just the sheer complexity of making something like that work. We barely understand it, much less can try and replicate it. It really is amazing.
Wow. Well, the bumper music kicking in here on us here. And I really want to appreciate you, Dr. Eppin, for coming in today. And I'm not going to take so long before we have to do another interview with you again, because I know you have a lot of things on your mind, and I know we caught you right in the middle of the season of traveling. And I really want to appreciate you for being on the program today. And
Well, thank you. I always enjoy talking with you, and just so grateful for the opportunity.
amen. I want to tell everyone, you just heard Dr. Matthew Eppinette, and remember the things that he said, because everything in the scripture, there's two things that is so crucial. But the main one I want you to understand is Jesus Christ saves. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Folks, it's more scientific than we know. God bless us.
Just Common Sense, a common sense approach to life with Dr. Johnny Hunter. Get involved and embrace common sense conservative principles when you visit learninc.org. LEARNINC, learninc.org. To listen, like, and share, look for Just Common Sense anywhere you listen to podcasts.